All right, so today we're diving into something you don't hear about every day. We're talking student loan debt,
Okay.
but not, for the recent college grad. We're talking about retirees with student loan debt.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a thing. People who are at the age where they should be enjoying retirement are instead still dealing with student loans, and it's more common than you might think. Next Avenue, that's a website all about aging and finances and all that, they had some pretty eye-opening statistics. Get this. 3.5 million people over the age of 60 are carrying a total of $125 billion, billion with a B, in student loan debt,
Wow.
right? It's like a hidden crisis. So today we're going to unpack this, figure out why this is happening, who it's affecting most, and hopefully talk about what can be done about it.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? It's like this issue is a symptom of these larger economic trends that have been building for decades.
Okay, so paint us a picture. What kind of trends are we talking?
Well, for example, student loan debt in general. Since 2003, it's gone from, get this, about $240 billion to over $1.6 trillion.
Oh, wow. That's not even a jump. That's a leap.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of things, but the rising cost of education is a big one. It's way outpacing inflation. It's not just that more people are taking loans now, which they are, it's that those loans are for much higher amounts now. And on top of all that, a lot of those degrees aren't leading to jobs that make it possible to pay off that debt.
It's crazy to think that even when you reach the age to get Social Security, those student loans could still be hanging around. And another thing Next Avenue pointed out was that it seems like a lot of these borrowers are women and people of color.
Yeah, and that's a really important part of this. This isn't a coincidence or anything. Things like the gender pay gap, where
Yeah.
women, on average, earn less than men, that makes paying off debt harder. Then you've got these for-profit colleges that often have really low graduation rates and leave these students, and they disproportionately target students of color with these massive amounts of debt. All of this together makes it so hard to get out of debt.
I bet there are some people thinking, well, they took out the loans, so they got to pay them back, right?
Right.
And it does seem kind of simple when you put it like that, but it's more complicated than that. It's not like these are people who just went on a spending spree.
Yeah, not at all. And Next Avenue, they actually looked into this. 80% of these loans, get this, weren't even taken out to help with their kids' college or anything. It was for their own education.
Wow, so we're talking about people who went to college when it was becoming more common, but maybe there wasn't enough information about how these loans could affect them later.
Exactly. And that's where this whole magic of compounding thing, it really comes back to bite you, but in reverse.
Okay, so how does compounding work against you?
Okay, so imagine this. You take out what seems like a pretty average loan back in the 80s when interest rates were crazy high. Even if you keep up with the payments, that interest can really add up over time. And all of a sudden, this small loan is this huge burden by the time you hit retirement.
Yeah.
And then if you defaulted, forget about it. It just spirals.
Next Avenue said that for these federal loans, if you default, the government can actually take money out of your Social Security to pay it back.
Yeah, they can garnish those benefits to repay the debt. It's true.
That's crazy.
So you could be trying to live on $750 a month after working your whole life.
Oh, man.
It's not a lot to cover rent and food and healthcare and everything else.
Yeah, especially with how expensive everything is getting, it seems almost impossible. So is there any hope for these people? What can actually be done at this point? Well, the good news is that Next Avenue doesn't just drop this bombshell on us without some solutions, right? They actually talk about some things that could be done, which is a nice change of pace.
Yeah, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. One of the big ones is actually from the Department of Education, and that's loan forgiveness.
Loan forgiveness.
Yeah, after you've been paying for a certain amount of time.
Okay, so how would that work?
So if you've been making payments based on your income, on your undergrad loans for 20 years, they'd be gone.
Wow.
And for grad school loans, it'd be 25 years.
So after all that time, no more loans, that's gotta be a relief for people. But will it actually happen? I feel like we hear about loan forgiveness programs, but then nothing really changes.
It's true. Next Avenue did point out that Biden's had some trouble getting his loan forgiveness plans through. There've been lawsuits and stuff.
Right.
So it's really a matter of waiting to see what happens with all that.
Yeah. So it's not just about this one proposal. There's a lot of other factors at play. What about protecting Social Security benefits? It doesn't seem right that that money could be taken away.
Definitely. And there are some things happening on that front, too. The Department of Education already has something called Fresh Start.
Fresh start.
Yeah, and it's supposed to help people who've fallen behind on their student loans. to help them get back on track.
What does it actually do?
It does a bunch of things. Like
Yeah.
it lets you get on one of those income-driven repayment plans and can even help, like, fix your credit score.
So it's like a reset button.
Exactly.
That sounds great. But Next Avenue mentioned that not a lot of people are actually using it. Why do you think that is?
You know, I think it's just a matter of people not knowing about it,
Yeah.
especially older adults who maybe aren't as familiar with all the online stuff. They probably don't even realize this program exists.
So it's up to us to spread the word.
Yes.
If you know anyone this might apply to, tell them about it.
Exactly. And on a bigger level, there's the Protection of Social Security Benefits Restoration Act, and that would just make it illegal to take Social Security for student loans.
Okay, so there are options out there. It sounds like we need to focus on making sure they work and making sure people know about them.
I think that's a great way to put it.
This whole thing has really highlighted something important. This isn't just about student loans. It's about how debt is affecting people as they get older, and that's scary.
Absolutely.
We started this deep dive with some pretty depressing information, but I'm actually feeling a little hopeful now. We talked about the problem, we talked about some possible solutions, and hopefully we've given everyone listening the tools they need to make a difference.
Well said.
That's what we like to hear. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. But when it comes to crushing your federal student loan debt, eduloanrelief.com means business.